Ever wonder what's really in the diesel you pump into your car? It seems simple, right? But behind that nozzle, there's this whole hidden world of rules. And today, we're going to break down a document that's basically one fuel to rule them all across an entire region.
You know, when you see a herd of zebras moving together across the plains of East Africa, it's this powerful image of harmony and unity. And what's wild is that in the East African community, even something as industrial as diesel fuel is designed to follow that same kind of common harmonized path.
It's a totally fair question. I mean, diesel is diesel. Why on earth do you need a super dense technical rulebook for it? Well, just imagine a world without one. A truck driver could get great fuel in one country, cross the border, and get stuff that completely wrecks their engine. Commerce would just grind to a halt.
And that potential for chaos is exactly why you need a solution. You need a single, clear rulebook for fuel, one that makes sure everyone is playing by the same rules.
And that rulebook has a name, East African Standard 177, or EAS 177 for short. Honestly, this document is kind of the unsung hero of this story. It's the thing that ensures the diesel you buy in any of the East African Community Partner States is reliable, safe, and consistent.
Okay, so if EIS 177 is our rulebook, what's actually in it? Let's start with the basics, kind of like looking at the official recipe for diesel. What exactly is allowed in the mix?
So first off, the standard makes it clear it's not just pure fuel. It allows for things like special dyes and markers, which are really useful for tracking fuel and preventing illegal mixing. It also gives the green light to additives that can boost engine performance, and it allows for a little bit of something called FAME.
So what is this FAME thing? Well, the long name is fatty acid methyl ester, which is a mouthful, but really it's just biodiesel. By allowing up to 5% of it, the standard is basically future-proofing the fuel a bit, right? It's building in this modern, renewable ingredient, which is a nice little nod toward a more sustainable future.
All right, so we've got a recipe, but how do we know if the cook did a good job? That's where the next part comes in. Think of it as a quality report card. Every single batch of fuel has to get graded to make sure it passes the test.
And this testing is absolutely crucial. I mean, this is the quality control that saves your engine from disaster. The standard lays out this whole table of properties that have to be measured, and each one has a really specific range it has to fall into. Let's look at a couple of the big ones.
First up, you've got this cetane number. This is all about how well the fuel ignites. A simple way to think about it is this. A higher cetane number means your engine kicks on way easier and runs a lot smoother, especially on a cold morning. It's a direct measure of how well that fuel is going to perform.
Next up is sulfur content, and this one is a huge deal for two main reasons. First, too much sulfur can seriously mess up modern diesel engines and their fancy emission systems. And just as important, less sulfur means cleaner air for all of us. So it's a win for your car and a win for the environment.
So if you look at the standard, EAS 177 says the cetane number has to be at least 51. That ensures you're getting good performance. And at the same time, the sulfur content can't be more than 500 milligrams per kilogram. That's what protects our engines and, the air we all breathe. These aren't suggestions, they're hard limits.
Okay, but it's one thing to have all this stuff written down on paper, right? How do you actually enforce it in the real world? How do we know the fuel that's actually coming out of the pump is the good stuff?
The answer? A super detailed, really rigorous sampling process. Inspectors can literally show up at any gas station, anytime, take a sample, and send it straight to a lab. This is quality control happening right on the front lines. And the procedure itself is incredibly precise, all to make sure nothing gets contaminated. First, they flush the line with 4 liters to clear out any old gunk. Then, they take a 1-liter sample in a special, clean container. They even leave a little empty space at the top. That's for safety, so it can expand. Finally, they seal it up so it's tamper-proof and slap on a unique ID code. It creates this perfect, unbroken chain of evidence from the pump right to the lab. And to be even more precise, they often use this cool little gadget, a special nozzle extension. This lets them fill the sample bottle from the bottom up, which stops any splashing and keeps the important stuff from evaporating. It's that kind of crazy attention to detail that makes sure the tests are 100% accurate.
So we've talked about cetane numbers, sulfur limits, and these really specific sampling procedures. After all that technical stuff, what's the big takeaway? What does any of this really matter?
Well, let's just picture the two worlds. Without a standard like ES 177, you've got total chaos. The fuel quality is all over the place, engines are getting wrecked, and it's a nightmare for anyone trying to move goods across borders. But with the standard, you get reliability, you get consumer protection, and you get the foundation for a much, much smoother regional economy.
And you know what?
That last point about the economy is the real key. You don't even have to take my word for it. The document's own intro says its whole purpose is to remove trade barriers. By making sure diesel is the same everywhere, a truck can just go. It can cross from one country to the next without a second thought, fueling not just its own engine, but the engine of the entire regional economy. Pretty powerful stuff.
So when you boil it all down, EAS 177 isn't just some boring technical document. Nope, it's a shield that protects every single driver's vehicle. It's a kind of treaty that ensures fair trade, and it's basically the lubricant that keeps the whole economic engine of the East African community running smoothly.
It really gets you thinking, doesn't it? From the electricity buzzing in your walls to the exact size of a shipping container. Our whole modern world is built on thousands of these invisible standards. They're all working silently in the background, just making things safer, more efficient, and more connected. What other ones are out there, shaping your life right now?